want to talk about this NBC headline, which I thought was freaking fascinating, especially considering who was covering the Joe Biden cancer diagnosis yesterday. Now, again, none of this, again, cancer's sad, cancer's bad. We don't want to see anybody, even our political, ideological enemies, deal with this sort of thing. Everybody agrees with that. But the whole cover up is fascinating. I'm going to read this headline from NBC. Trump allies shift from well wishes to suggesting Biden hid his cancer diagnosis. Initial sympathy for Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis has starting to ebb, and suggesting that Donald Trump's allies masked his condition. Basically, they're saying Trump allies are now accusing Joe Biden of hiding this. Anthony, you know, I didn't know this, but apparently Joe Scarborough of MSNBC and a bunch of people on MSNBC who had, to their credit, had doctors on saying there's no way they just found out about this. Those are Trump allies. What does it say about NBC, who again owns MSNBC, saying that this was just it's just Trump allies that are questioning it? Either Joe Scarborough is a hidden Trump ally, or they're lying about it.
Well, when it comes to the mainstream media, you can't really pay them enough to tell the truth anymore these days. And so there was a time that people used to get news from MSNBC, from ABC, from CBS, from CNN, to turn to these people, and all they would do was get the story, and then it was left to the consumer and the viewer to do with the information what they want to. What we saw ever since President Donald Trump came into, the realm of politics and started opening and lifting the rug that everyone kept tripping on all of these years to unveil all of this corruption and everything else that's been going on in Washington, people have had it out for him. And so it wasn't a couple of years ago, and it's still going on now, that people not only will see President Donald Trump and not only wish misfortune on him, but death and everything else. And then when you have something like this with Joe Biden, all of us here have had people that we know personally that have dealt with cancer, that have dealt with chronic illness and disease, and it could have been one of the things that they kept from the public because they didn't want it to be serious, or they didn't want it to be taken serious. But to be honest, it's just like none of us would have ever used that as something to discredit somebody who was in the position if their job was going well. And so now It's almost like everybody wants us to become the critical thinkers of everything else, so that now they can be like, oh, it's just the MAGA Republicans. It's these people over here, these alt-right extremist conservatives that are over here that are all about this and everything else. And so the whole purpose of this now is again shifting the blame and putting it on us and taking it off of themselves, when they were the ones that denied all of his cognitive decline, said that when he couldn't answer and stuttered and stumbled all over his interviews, that he was so articulate. And so I'm just like, if that is articulate, and that if that is sharp to you, I do not want to know what out of order looks like, because now you're starting to see it all unravel. And now to us, we're just like, well, if this was what's going on, now it kind of makes sense why someone would be stumbling through something, reading like, and please pause here. I'm like, man, that chemotherapy is really strong when it's working against you.
Yeah, geez, yeah. Books will be written, and I can't wait for those insider books, the actual insider books of how bad it actually was inside, not just a reporter saying, hey, nobody saw this, but here's our report on it, as Jake Tapper's doing. Glenn, I feel like MSNBC yesterday, and I hate to give them credit, but they did cover a lot. Now, they're not doing it at all today. I'm sure they got huge blowback from their viewership of saying, hey, guys, stop telling the truth. But I think there may be some sense that they've captured the idea of authenticity, which we were talking about with the podcasters earlier. And they did cover. Joe Scarborough was the first person that I saw yesterday on kind of the more mainstream lib side. Obviously, conservatives were talking about it days before, to have a doctor on saying, yeah, there's no way they just found that out. Do you think that the lib networks can course correct here to try and gain some sort of credibility back in this particular instance? Or is it a lost cause?
Can they? Yes, they could do whatever they want, and they've proven that. But will they? That's the question. I don't think they will. I think that they've become very opportunistic, and they have an agenda of some sort driving the choices they make editorially, by what stories they choose, by how they present them, by how they couch it in a narrative. And that has been going on for ages. It's why people like me, and probably a lot of viewers here, have become disillusioned with stations that they would have earlier in their life said that they trusted, or at least spent some time watching. They lean heavily left, and when it gets to the point where having a genuine medical opinion becomes an indicator to someone else of your political beliefs, that's just absurd when you think about it. Like, I don't get that. We've seen it with COVID. We've seen it here. And it's fine if people disagree, but why can't people talk about that disagreement? Why does it have to mean you believe something else about politics? Clearly, the man is in bad shape. It's the effects of old age. These things happen as people age. So I don't know what they'll do, but I can't imagine I will like it.
Yeah, I don't know what they'll do, but I can't imagine it'll be the right thing.